Alright, welcome to our second lesson in Adobe After Effects. We are going to learn how to use effects inside of the program. Go to your Start button, find After Effects, and open it. Once After Effects does open, we are going to again get rid of this welcome window and have the program be ready to go. So this is going to be our second lesson, so we want to save this file into the appropriate folder. So go File, Save As, and navigate to your folder where we're keeping our lessons. And if you don't have a Lesson 2 folder already, you can right click here and go New Folder and create a Lesson 2 folder. We will select the Lesson 2 folder. It's an untitled project. We'll call this AE Effects and hit Save. So now the project is saved in the right place. First thing I'm going to have you do is set your workspace to match mine so we look the same. If you go to Workspace and choose Effects, because that'll be kind of what we're working on today, you can also choose other things that you might be working on. Maybe titles is what your thing is, or motion tracking, animating, but effects, and it'll put the panels in a good position showing you the needed panels for this type of a job. Alright, so the effects are open. Project panel's right here. I would like you to come into the project panel and import. So either File, Import, or double click and find the video called Girl from your basic training footage folder. I'm going to open that. Alright, so last time we learned how to start a composition by creating a new composition from here and doing all the settings. This time we're going to let the file dictate the composition settings. So if the composition, say your footage, is already HD and you want to make an HD composition that matches the footage settings, which would be the length of it and its file type, simply drag it onto this button right here. It's the New Comp button. When you let it go, the footage will appear in a new comp that's titled by the name of the footage, and your video or footage will appear. It's set to the right settings, this being HD 720 I believe, and your time length is set to the length of the video, so now anything you apply will work in a preset time length for this clip. Alright, first thing we're going to do is to go ahead and add our first effect. So the effect panel up here, menu, is where all the effects are. Of course, if you're going to add an effect, you have to make sure that you select your file that you want to add an effect to. If there were more than one file in here, you add an effect to particular files. I'll click on the movie file so I can add the effect to it. And we're going to go up to Effects. As you can see, there are quite a few categories of different types of effects with a lot of different options. We're going to start out with Blur and Sharpen. I'll have you click on Fast Blur. Now when I do that, nothing happens initially, but my Effects Controls panel now pops up, which is next to the project panel here, and I can adjust the blurriness to make it more blurry. Now it does create a weird white hue on the edge, so I will ask it to repeat the edge pixels so that it smooths that out, and I now have a nice blur. You can blur a video behind a title, which oftentimes looks good, or you could even consider starting with keyframes and make it blur and then blur down to 0 so it's clean video after the keyframe, and like fade it in with a blur or fade it out with a blur. So we just kind of created a blur here. Now what's nice about After Effects is you can add or you can do changes to the effect in not only the Effects Controls panel, but here where the actual video is. If I click and open it with the triangle, I can find that there are effects applied to this as well as traditional transform options. In the effect arrow, you'll see the fast blur with the pretty much same controls as are up here. What's nice about this being down here is this is where keyframes would be made if we were going to make any, but we're going to skip that for this lesson. The other area, transform, appears for every file type you put in a composition. It has the traditional things that you learned in Adobe Premiere, like anchor point, position, which is moving something around, your scale for sizing, and you can rotate, and the opacity. So that's kind of nice to know that that is all inside of every one of the files, along with any effects you add as you add them. It's easier to work with the effects up in the effects panel though, because you can spread things out more and not have your composition become too crowded, especially if you have more than one item in your composition. Alright, another thing you can do here is you're going to add, while choosing the girl layer, another effect. This time it's going to be a color correction. Multiple ways to make your film or video look different, kind of like trying to change it into a movie type of a look instead of just a video camera look. Go to curves. When you choose curves, what's nice is you can make some adjustments to the curves. For example, I'm going to take this line and click here to create a little point and pull the curve up, and you can see now we've got a change in our color. I can click in another spot in the line, pull it down, create sort of an S curve, and I can get a really nice look to my video. Now, of course, I can still make adjustments to the previous effect to try to blend this stuff together. Sometimes this looks great, like I said before, behind a title. Another thing to know, that you can turn off effects and just work with one. So I can turn off the FX button and just work with the curve itself. Turn off the curves, and that was the original footage. So you can do that. Turn them both back on. You can also change their order, and what's unique about this is that the order actually depends what is first, what is second, as to what the final output of your video will look like. If I move curves to the beginning, notice the change in what the video looks like. The effect of curves that was applied before it blurs, compared to previously where the blur was applied before the curve happened. And so that actually makes different views for your effects, and that can make a big difference in how something looks for you. The triangles here can close these items, and this pretty much sets up our first effect. So you should have something that looks kind of like what I have for this first composition, and I set it to 47 for the blur, and you will then keep this one comp just like it is, and we're going to go back to the project and grab Girl the movie, not the composition that was created, and drop it on the Make Comp button again. This will give us Girl 2. Girl 2 comp is created. We're in here with the second one. The first one is still here. I'm going to grade your basic use of effects for this tutorial, so make sure you keep this comp and start another one. Alright, and now I'm going to have you go up to Effects and then go down to Color Correction and go down to Hue and Saturation. What we're going to do now is create a sepia style color correction effect. I'm going to have you click on the box called Colorize, and then we're going to get a different look already. We're going to make some adjustments. First, on the color hue, we're going to change that and make it about 43, I think is what I want to go for here. If you move it up and down, you can see that it does change. Alright, and then we're going to go to the color saturation and change that to about 15. You can also click and type in 15, so you can make a direct change. And you can see that we now have what looks like a sepia tone to make sort of an older style video, something that looks aged. So we're going to add another effect, but before we do, just take a look and see all the different types of effects that we have. There are so many categories that are full of subcategories that it would take you years to probably use them all effectively. Some of them you'll find you might use often, and others not so much. This time we're going to go into Stylize and go down to find Glow. Alright, we're going to make some adjustments to our glow in order to give it a special look. We'll take Glow Threshold and we'll turn that up right about, I'm not sure here, let's try this, and then we're going to use Glow Radius and make a little bit of adjustment on how much of the glow is coming off of anything that is bright. We'll turn down the threshold a little. Okay, so now you have this kind of new look. She's glowing along with every other aspect that is bright already in the video frame. We would only use the image of the girl because we'll be green screening that, and then we would have a certain look on her based on the glow. If you turn off the glow, you can see that how it looks beforehand, and you can turn it back on, so you can make a quick comparison and see if you like your new correction. Alright, let's close down the effects and go to project, grab the movie again, not the comp, and make one more comp button move to create a new comp called Girl 3. Alright, we're going to go down and find a new effect. Go to Effects, and we're going to go to Color Correction, change to color. That's one thing we could try. But another way to find an effect, if you know what it's called, is to come over to the search window and search in change to, and up will pop the change to color effect. So that's a second way to find effects, is by searching for them over in the box that's named Effects and Presets. You can drop it right onto the clip, which will then add the change to color effect. Use the eyedropper to suck up the color, and then we're going to change it to a color of our choice by clicking on the second box. And I'm going to go to a sort of a mustard yellow. Let's try. Hit OK, and now you've changed the color of her shirt. Now, this isn't foolproof. There will be some issues possibly with coloration on her lips and some other areas that might change as well. If you want to maneuver in the window, it's actually pretty easy to do. Use your scroll wheel on your mouse to scroll in and out. If you hold down spacebar, you can then use the mouse to turn into a hand and drag your image around. But if you drag with the mouse pointer, you're going to actually end up moving the clip and have to correct where it sits. So be careful using the mouse pointer. Let's put it back to where it goes. And again, use spacebar, which turns it into a hand to move it. Alright, let's go ahead and make some adjustments to the change to color. So if you try some of the hue, you can see that there's definitely a change. You can try to adjust some of the coloration off of her lips, but generally for a shot like this, people would probably notice the clothing change more so. We could spend a little more time with other effects to try to clean up other parts, but this simple effect gives you the ability to quickly change one color into another. So now make sure that you save this composition, actually this entire project, inside of Lesson 2 for effects. It will have 3 items that it will grade. The first comp called Girl, second comp called Girl 2, and the third comp called Girl 3. And then I will get your grade on that, and we'll move on and learn some more effects in the next video.